Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Ike, and I'm coming live to you from Johannesburg. Colleagues, I also want to introduce the team that will be supporting me today. First of all, I have our facilitator today by name of Jerry. Jerry is also coming to you from Johannesburg. Jerry works with New Leaders Foundation. I also have Clement Nkosi. Clement Nkosi is actually the provincial project manager for DDD in Gauteng, and he's also coming live to you from Johannesburg. Last but not the least, we have our subject matter expert, which is Heather Venter. Very happy to have her with us. Heather will also be taking the questions, SSN's related questions when we get to that point. But I would pause here and I would allow her, Heather to actually introduce herself because I don't want to miss anything out. Heather?
Good afternoon all. I'm Heather Venter. I am in Sedibeng East District in the DISM CIA, and dashboard uploads needs to happen every Friday. So I'm here to assist you guys with that. Thank you, Ike.
Thank you so much, Heather. Colleagues, Heather will actually be giving us a level of our expertise when it comes to assistance when we get to the Q&A. I will stop right here and I will hand over to the facilitator, Jerry, who will be taking us through the presentation. Thank you so much, Jerry. Over to
you. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Jerry Lemekwana, and today I'll be taking you through the data submissions. As you know, that term 3 has passed, and the expectation is that data should be submitted onto the DDD dashboard. So the next part where I want us to go, if you're joining this webinar for the first time, just for you to know, this is how the webinar was going to be run. The first one says, if you lose your signal and leave the Zoom meeting, please do not worry. All you need to do is just click on the link you used to join this webinar in order for you to rejoin the session. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A button there at the bottom in order for you to ask any questions that you have during this presentation. And if any question is not clearly answered in the Q&A, please raise your hand so that at the end of the Q&A of this session, you'll be able to ask your question clearly so that we can also answer your question. Please note that all webinars are recorded, and within 24 hours after this presentation, all attendees will receive their attendance register, link to the recording, and also this presentation slide. By default, all attendees are muted, but if any error occurs and then you find yourself unmuted, please mute yourselves to avoid any disturbances. And also do know that we value your feedback. At the end of this session, the polls will be released. Please answer them truthfully so that we can improve on our next webinars. Also, one thing to note is that this webinar will be uploaded on the YouTube channel, the DDD webinar, in terms of the recording. And hopefully Ike will put the description of the link below so that you can visit even the previous webinars that took place on this platform. And also, if you have any concerns or if you need any other information, it is written there that please contact the DDD help desk for assistance. So for today's objective, what we'll be talking about is how to upload your final term data, which will be focusing on term 1 up to term 3. So even though we are focusing on term 3, it's very that sometimes it's the data that we want to see there, it shouldn't be only for term 3, but even going backdating to your term 1 or term 2, it's very imperative that we have that data uploaded onto the dashboard. The second one will be identifying the common challenges encountered when submitting your school data. And also, we want us to understand how we can do the resubmissions and understanding also the rules that comes with the resubmission. Now, the next part, we are going to look at the value structure overview. With the value structure overview, just to give you an understanding what the value structure is, if you are not familiar with the term. So the value structure is a tool that validates. So basically validates, it looks at how well is your data, how complete is your data. Now validation, the validation rules, basically they do not look for the quality of your data. The important thing is the completeness of your data. So meaning that the human element where moderation needs to take place, we cannot filter that one out. It can tell you whether there's an amount put there when it's needed, but it cannot tell you that you put 30% instead of 60%. That is where the human element comes in. Now, once you've used this system, and then that's when you can extract your data, look at the portions of SSM schools in order for it to be displayed on the DDD dashboard. It is a key puzzle in improving the quality of data collection submitted by schools, which is going to be used for analysis in the stakeholders for the education department. So the data journey. So this is how it works in the greater scheme of things. At school level, you do have your SSMs. You capture your SSMs daily. With looking at this SSM, there are 4 modules currently that are looked at, which is Module 1, Module 2, Module 3, and also your curriculum-related module, which is 12. Once you've captured all these modules, there's this value structure that sits in the middle. The value structure then validates the information on SSMs. And you'll see you'll have different matrix that looks at your different modules, and it breaks it down and gives it a category of its own. Then on the far right, you'll see the dashboard. So that's when this piece of the value structure comes in, because now you're validating the completeness of your data to make sure that it is of good quality. I always say garbage in, garbage out, meaning the information you want to display on the dashboard for analysis, it can only be useful if the quality is of high standard. So we are going to talk about the final term submissions and how you can do your own final term submissions. Then one thing also to note, we are going to talk about the versions, because also version numbers are very important. When it comes to the value structure, we all know that we should be on, it's actually 7, they're not 70, 7.0.01. And on the SASMs, the current version that's released right now is 20.1.3. So also an important note that was issued out is that before you patch your database, it's very important for you to back up your database before patching, so that should anything go wrong, you already have your original database that was not patched in order to make sure that it's patched correctly. So we are going to start with the value structure and how you can find it. So if it's installed on your machine, I think a couple of weeks back, we had a session where we were talking about how you can, the value structure versions and how you can find it, and also how you can download it and install it on your machine. So once that's done, what you'll see on your desktop, you'll see this icon. So this icon basically helps you. Let me put the laser pen there. So this icon there, basically that means your value structure has been installed on your machine, and now it is ready to be used. All you need to do right now is double click on the value structure, or basically alternatively, you can right click and you'll see the option to open the value structure. So before we continue, there are 2 types of validations. Now, the first one you'll see there, it says temp to date. Now, temp to date, whatever information you'll see is basically linked to the temp to date that you see on the dashboard. Now, temp to date, as you can see there, it speaks of, let me put this there. It refers to the weekly submissions that occur every Friday after capturing learner and educator attendance and any assessment that have been administered during the week. All right, so we know that most of the time when you do your weekly submissions, that will be on a Friday. Because when you open your SSMs and you look at attendance, it gives you the option to capture attendance from Monday to Friday. All right, so that's the term to date validation. The second one that I want to speak of is your final validation. Now, your final validation refers to the end of term submissions, where we look at all the assessments that have been administered, where we look at also all the attendance, whether for educators and learners, but also looking at your term promotions that have been ran for that term. So meaning that you would, at the time, you would have had the full data set for that term, and not only looking at the accumulative one, which is your term to date. Now, let's speak about how you can do your final validation. Now, the first step is you'll see we have your select database. Now, just in case you don't see this pop up there, you can click on select database. So that means you want to select your database. The next thing to also be aware of, because this challenge has always come through where schools be like, no, we have captured as we keep capturing, but then it's not updating on the value structure. So the most important thing is to be aware that you are looking at the current database that you have or that was captured. And if it's not, then you need to click on browse and refer to where your database is. And again, always make sure that even when you look at the database, the date, the last updated date should be the time when you last updated your database. Now, once you're happy that you have the current database, then you can now select the year and the term. Now, at this instance, already you'll know that we'll be talking about, we said we're talking about term 1, term 2, but also most importantly, your term 3 data that needs to be submitted. And also if you've submitted, if you're a constant submitter, you've submitted your term 1, your term 2, which is already fine because by default, when you select a term, so let's say you select term 3 and 2 is not submitted. The moment you click on select, and we'll talk about what the other options or what you'll see after pressing select, but then it will tell you that at the end, it will indicate that your term 2 was not submitted. So already you know if you have previous terms that are outstanding, so that you can go back even before you select your, even if you submit your term 3, go back and select the previous term so that all the terms that are missing should all be submitted on the dashboard. So again, then you'll click on select. After selecting, meaning you are happy with the database that you see and the term and year that have been selected. By clicking select, now what this does now, we spoke about the four modules taken from your database, right? Module 1, module 2, module 3, and module 12. It takes it and it creates a school health. It calculates all the data that's missing. And by doing that, it generates this, we call it the validation summary report. So this verification summary report is basically an indication on how is your schools doing. So you'll see that you also have things like your data completeness. It'll show you how many learners are missing, or how many learners do not have subjects. It will tell you, talk to your assessments, even your promotions. So that's the category. We call them matrix. Those are the matrix that have been categorized in your SSM's database. All right. Now, once you are happy, so let me come here. Once you are happy with what you are seeing here, your data completeness is very high, and you don't see any exclamation mark. Then the next part is where you will come in and you'd want to extract your database. All right, so extraction means to upload onto the dashboard. Now by default, and also this has come up where schools think that by default, just because you clicked on final validation and everything is fine, then the information will be displayed on the dashboard. No, this is a very important step where you need to click on extract. And by clicking on extract, that means you intentionally want to submit your data onto the dashboard. Now, the second very crucial part that we need to be aware of, when you click on extract data, extract data, you will see this pop-up. It says, I hereby confirm that I have run the end of term validation utility, and then it'll show you the name of your school for whatever term you have selected. Now, this I hereby confirm. So when I'm out there, I always ask, who is this I hereby confirm? Who's confirming that they are running the final extraction? And I think by default, we already know this is the principle. Any data that leaves the school that concerns the school needs to be validated by the principal. The principal needs to confirm that, yes, I agree with the information that has been sent out, and I verified that the information that has been sent out has been moderated and is of good quality, because that is the human element. In as much as we do have the value structure in place, it is very important that we check the information that's going out. It has been verified, and also as a principal, you know what information is going out and when. So it says that that the term 21 and that the data is a fair reflection of my school's information. I understand that this is the final extract for my school's data for this term, and that this data will be uploaded and collated for the data-driven district dashboard. Now, if you show that you want to confirm this, because this is a user agreement, you click on accept. What this will do now, when you click on accept, it will start the exporting process. Now, based on those modules that we spoke of, then it will now start taking it, because it has been validated. Then the next process now, you will see that it will show you the size of your data that's about to be sent out. Now, as you know, when you look at your database by default, when you talk about the sheer size of your database, basically, I think it should be more than 10 megabytes or even 20. Some I've seen they are at 100 megabytes. Now, because it's compressed so that it does not eat a lot of your data, not even much of your data. That's why you have such a small number of megabytes going out. Then once you are happy with the share size and you know you do have your 1.35, which if you have connectivity already, it shouldn't be a problem, then you click on yes. By doing that, then it will literally start the extraction from the value structure onto the dashboard. Now, also one thing to note is that if you want to extract your data from your computer, from your SASMs, which has gone through the value structure, you need internet connectivity. Now, without internet connectivity, your data obviously cannot leave your system onto the DDD dashboard. Now, once this is done, you wait for this message where it tells you that this file was uploaded successfully. Now, if you did not get any other error, which we'll be talking about, so that means your data should be reflecting onto the dashboard. Unless if, one, you see this message, and then if you check the following day, your data does not reflect. Now, I'll talk about different scenarios why this could be happening. One, we do have your gazetted term dates. If your gazetted term days are outside the period that was mentioned, it will not reflect, even though you did not get an error. So the second one is if, for example, there was one that came out today. On the database, they said there was special needs. It's a special school, right? But it's basically just an ordinary high school. Now, when you confirm it with the department, they are not saying the same thing. What they have on their list, which we also rely on, says they're just an ordinary school, not a special school. Now, just by doing that, your data will not reflect onto the dashboard because there are no correlation between the two systems. And also, please do use the Q&A before I continue, that option, so that you can also be able to ask your questions if something is not clear. But also, if we are talking about even the areas that you'll be getting, we'll be touching on that, making sure that we do not leave any stone unturned when it comes to the DDD. Okay, so I'd like to stop here in terms of the entire process of submitting your database. ICAM, Do you have anything to add that I could have omitted?
Thank you so much, Jerry. I can see that there are actually questions, but I just want to pause everything and allow us to take that in the Q&A session. But I think that you actually 100%. I'll just pause here and just wait for the session to end. When we get to Q&A, then we can address any other questions or comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, so we'll be answering your Q&A at the end of the session. So if you have any question, they won't be answered now, to keep the momentum going and so that we can cover as much content as possible. So the second part that we'd like to speak of is your value structure sign-off. Now, also depending on the province that you're in, some it's needed, just like when you do your loose deployment form, as you send it in with your databases. So the sign-off also comes from the value structure in the system. Now, how do you get this value structure sign-off? So after you have submitted your data onto the dashboard, the value structure sign-off is one of the crucial things that needs to happen. So the first thing is you'll see there's a sign-off button there at the top. Once you click on the sign-off button, there will be a pop-up. This pop-up basically is asking you, where do you want to save this document? Because it is a PDF document, right? So this PDF document, the first thing you want to do, you want to save it on your desktop. So that after you saving it on your desktop, you'll be able to print it out and also to give it to your principal for him or her to sign. All right, so this sign off, you click on sign off, then it asks you, where do you want to put your sign off document for you to print? Now, I always say, rather put it on your desktop. If you want to put it in your documents, that's fine, but desktop, normally that's the easiest place where you can put your sign off document. So sign off and you click on desktop. Once you see your desktop highlighted, then the next part that you want to do is to click on OK. So meaning that you are fine, that's where you want to store your sign off. Now from here, do not expect any confirmation to say the document has been saved. The moment you click on OK, that means that now your PDF document, your sign off document is on your desktop or whatever folder you've decided. All right. Now, once that's done, the next step is to look for this sign off document on your desktop. Now you may ask yourself, what does this document look like? The first important thing is to make sure that you do have a PDF viewer, any application on your system that will give you the option to actually open your PDF document. Now, if by default you cannot open any document, this kind of document, you will not be able to recognize it easily. Now, here's the format. The first thing to look out for when it comes to this sign off document. So the format is the naming convention is sign off. Then the last part will be the date that you signed, you put the sign off document on your desktop. All right. So if it is today, I think today is the 19th, if I'm not mistaken, the PDF on the desktop would have said sign off 2020 1019. I hope I got it right. So basically that's the date, today's date. That's when now you can go into your sign off. You double click on the sign off document, right? You want to open it, right? So that you can print it. Now let's look at what this sign off document looks like. So basically you'll see it here. This is your sign off document. It's a screenshot of what your verification summary report looks like. So what you see on your value structure, the moment you land, that will be your sign off. But also it includes the principal name, the principal's signature, and the date it was signed. Now, also one thing that I've seen in schools, the administrator would take this document and sign it because they need to send it. They will sign it. They'll put the principal name, but they will be the one signing it, and they'll put the date and the school stamp. Now, in some sessions where you go out there and you ask the principal, how many times do you do your sign-off document? They have never seen this document before because it has been the administrator who has been signing for them. So I would like to caution against that because this needs to be signed by the principal to say that they are aware of the data going out and they are aware of if there are any exclamation marks, if there are any reds, if there's anything missing, they will be aware of what's really happening in their school. So with that said, let's look at what information needs to be will be sent out. So especially for term 1 to term 3. All right. So the detailed summary verification report is the critical matrix. And the biggest thing that you need to be aiming for is having your matrix green. So all these matrix, they have different colors. They can be green, they can be amber, they can be red. And then you have a red with an exclamation mark. Now, just to explain how they work. So if it's green, it means your data is absolutely fine. You have a few errors or none whatsoever. If it's amber, it does not mean you have data missing. Basically, your amber means you have captured your data, but then there is a step missing. So for example, if you have some sort of assessment, so let's say in grade 11 for maths, and then for the second term, if it's amber, for example, for that subject, it means you did not select, you did not indicate which subject is your exam for that term. So although you've captured, but you do not click on that common task to say this is that common task, that option you'll see in SASMs. All right. And then you have your red. Red means, even though I cannot classify it by percentage, red means there's a lot of data that's missing, even though you'll be able to submit. Now, if you have a red with an exclamation mark, that means totally you cannot submit onto the dashboard. Now, this means even though your data completeness is at 99.99%, for the mere fact that you have an exclamation mark, you will not be able to submit. And then also, let's talk about your data completeness. Your data completeness, for some provinces, what I've seen, they have their own target. So they can say like our target is 97%. Your target is not to aim for 97%. Your target is to aim for 100% data completeness. Now, the last part, the bottom part there says schools on a rotational basis will most likely not get a green matrix. So you'll see also when you open your Vela structure and you look at most especially your learner attendance, because now you're rotating, right? As you rotate, you know that the moment you click on your learner attendance, you now select the grades that you want to capture attendance for. And the ones that you did not activate, that means you will not have capture their attendance, and which is fine. Now, my advice will be, even though when you look at your data completeness, looking at attendance, the most important thing is you need to capture your attendance truthfully. It needs to be a true reflection of your school. Whether you deactivate grades and classes, that's a different story, which is fine, long as you capture your attendance truthfully. All right. Now, also one important thing, depending on your matrix, right? So let's say you see your matrix red with an exclamation mark. All you need to do is click on that matrix and it will indicate where the data is incomplete and also what you need to do in order to make sure that you capture your data completely. Now, here is the second part. I would like to talk about the new submission rules. So resubmissions, if you don't understand the term, it means if you want to submit again. And submit again, just for clarity, submit again, you don't submit because you want to do adjustments, your own adjustment to look good on the dashboard. So adjustments means, resubmissions in this term means that you've submitted data that was incorrect, right? And then now because you've rectified your data, you want to submit again. So with that being said, If you really want to resubmit, so for example, I'll give you an example that, especially from term 2, even term 3, some schools, what they did, they submitted, or even though they were not done with their promotions, even their assessments. And we know that we're also waiting for a patch, which was going to rectify all of this. So because resubmission became a popular request, this new process had to be done. Now, in terms of the old process said that the moment you click on submit, right, you go back, you look at your value structure, you click on your extract data. So that's basically you're trying to submit again. The first thing you would have seen is that this communication was going to pop up to say that you have previously submitted data for, let's say now it's term 3, 2020. Please note that resubmissions of a term's data is typically not uploaded onto the DDD dashboard. It is likely that the submissions will not be processed without manual authorization. Now, the last part indicates that you need to contact the DDD help desk, which is that email, for assistance in steps required to override your previous submissions. So what that meant was that you'd contact the help desk. The help desk will give you a form, right? This is the first step. They'll give you a resubmissions approval form. So now with this resubmissions approval form, you need to indicate, we're going to indicate why you wanted to submit, what errors were omitted, and what term do you want to resubmit. Now you're going to take this form to your EMIS support or your circuit manager in order for them to approve your resubmission. Now, once that's done, you're going to take that form, which was signed by your EMIS or your circuit manager, back to help desk, and also including your database. Now, once that's done, help desk was going to resubmit on your behalf after getting your approval form, which was signed, because that means that whatever information you said you were changing had to be authorized, because schools back then used to, there was a pattern of just resubmitting. And the problem with that, so I'll give an example. There was one district here in Gauteng, I think 4 years ago. So I was with the curriculum advisor, a subject advisor. So she downloaded a report a week ago. Then the following week, she downloaded the same report, the same number of schools, right, with the impression that the data should be the same. But then after a week, the information was not the same. Then after further investigation, it was apparent that some school had done some adjustments because they saw that, okay, learners were going to fail, I think it was mathematics, because of those adjustments. So that's when this rule came into play, all right? So that was the old process. Now, because in 2020, now we are dealing with this pandemic, this COVID, and also making sure that SSMs is aligned with all the changes that need to take place. And you would have had in Karin's session where she did mention that, they were working on the new patch where it was going to adapt to the new changes of the COVID. Hence, now we have the deactivation of grades and classes, even your assessments where there were also adjustments that had to be made. All right. So because of this, now the resubmission process had to change because a lot of schools had submitted their data, which was not a true reflection of what was happening. So I'll give an example also. Back then, we had schools that had to mark all the learners absent. So the deactivation, because the deactivation option was not there. So at least now you have that option. Jerry,
I think your network is acting up there. If you can hear us, Jerry, I think your network is acting up there. Can you hear us? All right, thank you so much. I think Jerry's network actually froze from that part, but we'll be actually going back to that in a bit. I'm just going to go straight to the parts that Jerry was, so I can continue where Jerry left off. Colleagues, also, I would want you to please engage with the Q&A, put your comments, your questions, your contributions on the Q&A so we can actually be able to answer those questions before the end. So Jerry was talking about the resubmission and he spoke about the old rules. Also, this is the new process for the resubmission. And please, when you actually submit and you are having challenges with your submission and you really don't actually know what to do, colleagues, please, I would advise you to contact your provincial EMIS if it's also a database issue, so they can actually be able to assist you. I'm also looking at the questions and I'm seeing that most people were actually putting the questions down saying that they actually contacted the DDD help desk and there is actually, they did not get response like almost immediately. I want to also apologize in that regard because there's a high influx of request on the DDD help desk, but I know definitely they will definitely get back to you when it comes to the response on your query. So please look out for that. They will definitely get back to you. While we wait for Jerry to rejoin us, I'll be looking at the questions and why Jerry rejoins us. I see one of the questions here from Holloway. Holloway says, how do I get all my dots in green? So Holloway, I think you're talking about how do you get all your metrics, as Jerry has alluded to that, the metrics on the value structure green. So all you need to do is to capture the information on each metrics completely. You know, the value structure checks for completeness and not correctness. Correctness has a human element that actually verifies the data and makes sure that the data is actually 100%. So Holloway, all you need to do is capture all those metrics when we talk about attendance, both learner and educator, also the assessment. Capture all the informations completely, and then you can extract it to the DDD dashboard. Now, once that is, you can extract it to the value structure. Now, what the value structure does is that the value structure checks for completeness, and it checks are all the fields that you're expected to capture, have they been captured completely? If yes, then it will affect the color. The color will actually change to green. But if you have something missing, you would have amber. Amber means you have captured, but you've not captured everything completely. And red means they are actually fields that are empty that you need to also fill. So I hope I was able to answer your question, Holloway. Now, moving straight to the next question while we wait for Jerry. The next question comes here to say, what about instruction received from DDD to resubmit, for example, term 3, 2020? That questions will be answered at the end of the session. Jerry is going to allude to that because there was a communication that actually went out, and I'm sure that Jerry is going to be speaking to that information also. I can see Jerry is back. So colleagues, I'm going to pause here and I'm going to stop sharing, Jerry, so you can continue where you stop, then we can go to the Q&A. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sorry about that network. I had to switch connections. So I'm going to share my screen. All right, so just to continue from where we left off. So yeah, basically that's the process. So even when should you get even this communication pop up saying that you need to contact the help desk, there is basically no need for you to be doing that. because the information will be sent onto the dashboard within 24 hours, or basically the next day. And also, I had IK talking about this because there was communication that told schools that they had to resubmit. Basically, even most of it was based on the fact that, one, schools that had submitted were still using 20.0.0. So when you think about even term 3, you submit using 20, even 19, someone's still on 19. It should be alarming looking at those facts that if you submit your data not using the latest patch or the latest version, some information will not be displayed correctly. All right, so now we are going to talk about the common issues that you'll see. I know this one has been appearing quite a lot. It says version string portion was too long, too short, or too long. Now, this was based on the patch that came out, and you would have known this, the 20.1.2, whereby under the patches table, the format was a bit different. Now, because of that, the value structure saw that as an error. Now, quickly, that was fixed with the refreshed version of the same patch number, 20.1.2. I think within a week, that was also fixed. Now, that will be the solution, to get the refreshed version of 20.1.2 or even version 20.1.3 of SASEMS. Now, very important that you always need to back up your database before patching to these versions. Now, the next one is looking at, this one is a very common one, especially in the Eastern Cape. So what has come to attention also is that the Eastern Cape, they are rebuilding their warehouse, right? So, and you'll see that when you do your normal extract, it should be fine. So let me put a laser pen. When you do your normal extract, your data extract. So Eastern Cape, for those who don't know, Eastern Cape is a bit different to all the other provinces because they also have the extra option here to submit their data directly to the provincial warehouse, right? Instead of submitting to emails or using those channels. So that's their process. So they submit onto the dashboard directly, and also with their data to the provincial warehouse. It's using these database submissions. Now, so for most of the schools, because they've been doing this for many years, I think recently when they're trying to submit onto the warehouse, they get this this error telling them, well, basically an error that does not allow them to submit. Now, with that error, basically, it's not because you did something wrong. It's because basically they're still rebuilding the warehouse, and very soon you should be able to submit onto the warehouse. The very common one, I'm sure if the emails in this forum, they would know that this is a very common error. So it says an error occurred exporting SSM's data. So it also indicates that the executing query is from the subject official table. So with this, let me try to explain it in layman's terms. The issue here is that under the subject's official table in SSMs, we do have a table. So subject official, we do have a row called the subject ID. Now, what you'll find that in those subject ID, there are duplicates because we expect only one subject ID and not 2 or 3 subjects ID at the same time. All right, so if this happens, I always say that what you do is you contact help desk. Help desk will indicate which subject IDs are duplicates, meaning there are 2 instead of 1, because a subject ID is a unique identifier of a subject. So if it's maths, let's say it's maths grade 5, it will have its own subject ID, right? So if there are 2, they're duplicates, like maybe subject ID 552 and the other one says it's 552, those are duplicates. That means they are not unique. That's when you'll get this error. So you contact help desk to identify those duplicates. But also after that, I always refer them to EMIS in Gauteng, I think it's IT, or even SEMS, so that these duplicates can be removed. All right. Now, and hopefully very soon, working with SAMS and Karine, we'll find a way of dealing with all the schools, because this challenge has been going on for quite some time. So we are still evaluating it, and hopefully we'll have a better process of dealing with it. And also, one thing that was indicated was that possibly it still need to be investigated, that it's due to schools creating their own subjects. So by doing that, it creates a duplicate on that side, on that table. But also that will be investigated to make sure that we give you the relevant information. Now, there's one also very popular, is coming up constantly. What this error tells us is that there's a problem also in the patches table. So in this table, what literally happened in the school was that on this day, the 14th of October, 2020, the school that you're seeing here tried to patch version 18.0.0, even though they had version 20.0.001. So basically that's a downgrade. So you have version 20 and you're trying to go to version 18. And if you know very well that with any updates, you cannot downgrade. Downgrade is not permitted. You can only go up and get the latest patch that you have. And just because of that, that error was created to show that at some place, at some time, the school tried to patch to the lowest version. Now with this, also this needs to go to EMIS. They can open the patches table. The reason why, even though your database is fine, it still needs to be investigated to make sure that, because we are trying to patch to the lowest version, everything in your database is fine. So once it is established that your database is working very fine, then they can, EMIS, by the way, not the school. I don't think you should be meddling with your database in any way. When they are happy that the data of your database has not been corrupted, that is when now they can remove that error in your database. So again, that's why it's very important to back up before you patch, so that when you encounter such problems, all you have to do is get your backup again, and you don't have to deal with errors of such nature. All right, so with that being said, I think we will move to the Q&A. Okay, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Jerry, for our informative session, and I hope that the attendees have actually gotten the information that has been passed across. Colleagues, I have also launched the polls. So the polls assist us in actually planning for the subsequent session. Please, I would humbly request to each and every one of you to please engage with the poll. The questions are not much, so please just answer the poll to the best of your ability and how you've perceived the session. Moving right along, first of all, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to give access to the hand that has been up. I can see that Mokadi's hand has been up. So I'm just going to give her the access so she can ask her questions before I go straight to the polls. Mokadi, if you can hear me, I'm actually going to give you access. Please unmute yourself and please ask your questions. Mokadi, if you can hear me, I've given you access to speak. On the icon where it crosses a line over the mic, just unmute it, click on it. It will unmute, then you'll be able to speak. If you can hear me, Mokadi, please click on that, then you'll be able to speak. You have been unmuted. All right, so I'm just trying to allow, okay. All right, then I think Mokadi is actually struggling to unmute herself, but please, if you can, I've given you the access to speak. Also, if you want to ask questions, colleagues, I'm going to go through the questions, and please, you can also put your hands up, and then you will be assisted. Moving right along, Jerry, the question about the communication, I see that Lana has responded and said, thank you so much, Jerry, answered my question. So thank you, Lana. The next question here, Jerry says, greetings. And I think this might be an SSAM's question. So I'm actually going to pause for Heather to ask her the question. But let me just ask you this one, Jerry. I've answered the question that has to do with how do I get my dots green. The next question here, Jerry says, where do I get version 70.0.0.1? Because the latest of the value structure is 7.0.0.1. It cannot extract the data from SSAMs. Then I cannot submit. Jerry?
So there is no 70.1.1. So it is 7.1.1.
All right, Jerry, if you can repeat what you've just said now, your network was a bit shaky, so I'm sure that the person that asked the question did not really get that. Please, if you can repeat what you've just said again. All right, I think Jerry's network is acting up. So the response is there is no 70 point. Okay, go ahead, Jerry.
Yes, so it will ask you to update to the next version. So when a new version comes, you will be prompted. That's how you will be able to update. There's no 70.1.0.0.1.
Thank you so much, Jerry. Please also to remind everyone, please, can we also be able to engage with the polls, please, so we can be able to get a comprehensive polls feedback. There's this question that also, I'm just trying to get the question. Okay, he said that was a typo. It's supposed to be 7.0.0.1. Yvette said it's supposed to be 70.0.0.1. So Yvette, are you saying that you cannot use the version 7.0.0.1 of the value structure? Please, if so, please can you engage the Q&A so we can be able to assist you with this. I'm going to Heather, I hope you are there, because the next question is a question that has to do with SSAMs. It says here, right? It says, how do I get the name of our school changed? We transformed from a high school to a mid-special school in 2014. Up to date, we were not able to change the name to indicate that we are no longer a high school.
All right, that one is easy. In SISAMS in module 1, you need to change your details. But then the other part is you need to speak to your district, and they need to speak to head office, because on the master list, your school's name change need to be affected there. And the master list is then fed to DDD again, and then your school will reflect the name change. So you need to rectify it in SISAMS, and then you need to make sure at the district office and your head office that the name change has been affected. And these letters that they do with regard to name changes, because it's things that's going to be audited. So there will be a paper trail for the Auditor General. So the name change must be on the master list before it will appear on the dashboard. Did that answer the question?
Thank you so much, Heather. I'm sure it do answer the question. There's another question from Clifton Heather. It says, greetings. When we capture SBA for English First Additional Language Term 4 as per relevant mark list, the marks exceed the maximum, which is 380. That makes the total percentage to be more than 100. What might be the problem?
Good. That one is a bit complicated because he didn't mention the grade we're talking about. And then we first need to know the grade that's affected there. And when we know the grade, we can look further into that as to solve the challenge there. So if you can please use the Q&A to just give us a hint there, then we will look at that later on.
Thank you so much. The next question, Heather, is from Melania. It says, hi, for term 2, are we supposed to capture absent for all grades that did not attend school for all the weeks of the term before we upload on the Valistrator?
All right. There was a circular released by Public Ordinary Schools for Gauteng Province, giving schools guidance on how to capture and what to capture. So schools need to follow those instructions, but they need to capture before they upload, and they actually need to upload them too, because schools did follow different models, but for the most of them too, April was lockdown, hard lockdown without anyone attending, and then different models were followed as from May for the return of certain grades. Some private schools had all learners who returned, and then others followed the guidelines by the minister. So that will depend on what was done in your specific school, and you need to capture that, but attendance need to be captured throughout, from term 1 up until today. Did that answer the question?
Great, thank you so much. The next question is from Nordin. Nordin says, if your grade 7 returned sooner than the gazetted date, will it affect final validation?
No, it will not affect final validation, because there's no one size fits all, because schools adopted different models. So if the school returned earlier than the indicated date by the minister, she will just capture the learners' attendance when they were at school. So it will not affect the final upload.
Thank you so much, Heather. There's another follow. So the person that asked said, you remember you were talking about the grade. The person said, follow-up question. The problem was only identified while capturing grade 2. Sorry, grade 2.
I'm not sure which question.
I'm just going to read the question again, but I'm sure that they can actually contact their provincial emis based on that question. I've actually skipped the question. So moving right along, it is fine, Heather. If the person feels that the question is not answered, we'll actually give them access to speak. There's another question here that says, I have been experiencing errors that says read only when I click OK. It kicks me out of SSAMs. This happens a lot when I'm doing or capturing attendance. Please advise on that.
All right, that one, they need to contact the technical team, the IT person. You need to log a call with the IT help desk, and the IT technician will then assist you with that. I also know that your date format of your laptop must be year, month, and the date. Otherwise, schools are experiencing problems with 20.1.3. if the date format is not correct, like the one SSAMS is recognizing. Did it answer that one?
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Heather. There's another question, and I'm sure the response is close to what you've just said now. It says it's from Rina. Rina says, with the new patch, our school has lost all marks for all the terms. How do we retrieve this?
All right, that one brings us to the importance of making backups. Actually, for Gauteng Circular 9 of 2017 is requesting or is forcing schools to make daily backups. So please make backups so that before you patch, and daily backups for that matter, so that whenever you patch and you lose the marks, go back to the backup and redo the process. I have to mention that sometimes when schools are exporting from third parties to SA SAMS, that happens a lot. So wherever you are working only on SA SAMS, that shouldn't happen, but the importance of backups, I cannot stress that enough.
Great. Thank you so much, Heather. Most of the questions here are talking about them having errors in their, having poor internet connectivity, and also we are also experiencing that here. But please don't be dismayed. We are going to be sending the pack of the attendee to you, which includes the slide, which include the recording link, and also the attendance register. So you could go back and listen to this. I think the next question I need to ask Jerry here. The question says, we have an educator who is on SSAMS, but she is not appearing on the DDD dashboard.
Thank you, Ike. I think there are two things that we need to look at. If it's a new educator, someone who just joined, obviously if you are referring, let's say term 2, they joined before that, then they will not be displayed. But if you have captured them, they've joined the school for quite some time and they are not appearing, can I just make a suggestion that please contact the DDD help desk? That will be displayed after this slide, where we can look at what could have caused that cause. Ideally, the moment you capture anyone, any educator, they should be displayed onto the dashboard by the time. So if you capture them for term 3, you start capturing for term 3. In term 2, they will not be there. They will start appearing for term 3. So yeah, please contact the DDD help desk so we can look at that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Jerry. Another question, Jerry, is straightforward. It says, it's from Lana Schoolman. Lana said, I'm from Berkeley East High School in the Eastern Cape. It's good to have the Eastern Cape here. I have a problem uploading my term 3 database on Valistractor. I get a message, an error occurred when uploading your data, etc. This does not happen when I do my weekly submission. I contacted the DDD help desk. They asked me to email my database, which I did. I had nothing from the DDD help desk after submitting the database. In the meantime, my district is asking why my data was not submitted. I did it manually in the meantime. What else can I do to resolve my problem? There are other schools in my district experiencing the same problem.
Yes. So remember in the Eastern Cape, we spoke about the warehouse challenge that's happening. So if you're talking about submitting on the DDD dashboard, there are a couple of errors, the 2 errors, the one with the subject criteria or the subject official error that you'll see. That's something completely different. But if you are talking about the one where you were selecting the database, the provincial warehouse, the middle submission part, then obviously you will be getting that error and you will not be able to submit till the system is up and running in Eastern Cape. So I'm quite aware of that. Actually, you're talking to me. I just found this information yesterday that they're still working on it. So yeah, just be patient. It should be up and running very soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jerry. There's this question from Magwana. It says, how can I remove the name of the principal who appears on the dashboard, although he resigned 10 years ago?
First and foremost, I think the most important thing is to make sure you remove your principal as your principal of the school on SA SAMS. I think it's module 1, if I'm not mistaken. Then if they still appear on the DDD dashboard. Also, we may have to look at the access they have. But again, do contact the DDD help desk to look at that, what could have caused that. Because sometimes the issue is that some schools, what they do, they have maybe an educator. That's how duplicates are created. They have an educator, they decide to change the name of the educator, or even the ID format of the educator or whoever. The moment that happens, the system creates a duplicate because it thinks that the original one that was uploaded, it had a certain ID number. And then the second one has a different ID number. So by default, it thinks it's two different people. That's why it's very important when you capture correct information the first time so that you don't have to do all these adjustments. But then if that's the case, it's something that we're still looking at on how to remove the duplicate educators or educators that are still appearing. Because what I can assume was that they were appearing, but then they were removed. They were appearing and then a duplicate was created. So when you archive the one that was edited. Then another issue that was also noted was that on the system, what it does, so obviously you have your archive and you put an archive date, right? So what happens is that some schools, what they do, they lose their database. And then instead of archiving of capturing everyone again, then archiving the one that left the time the database was lost or was corrupted or whatever the case might be. They only capture the current educators and not the ones